Hey everybody, so it's time for NHL Games of the Week, where I look at the upcoming week in the NHL and pick out what I think will be the best and most entertaining games to watch. Now I'm recording this on Saturday. The video will drop on Sunday like it normally does, but I'm going to be busy all day Sunday, so I won't have time to do videos, so I've had to record it a little bit early here. But before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone to please hit that like button. It really helps out the channel, and those thumbs up do mean a lot. And subscribe if you're new to the channel. It is greatly appreciated as we look to grow off-the-wall hockey here. So let's get into it, starting with December 15th, Sunday, December 15th. We have the Vancouver Canucks versus the Vegas Golden Knights. That's a very important Pacific Division matchup right there. Two teams teetering on the edge of playoffs versus non-playoffs. They need all the points they can get. That's a very big divisional matchup for both of them. Whichever team comes out of that with 2 points, it's going to be a big 2 points. Moving on to Monday, December 16th, we have the Colorado Avalanche versus the St. Louis Blues, a matchup of the two best teams in the Central Division. Very, very big, obviously, game for both of those teams. Colorado is St. Louis has been at the top of that division for most of this year. Colorado is coming strong, trying to take over first place. That's a big game between two teams. I think that's going to be a rivalry that's going to grow and grow this season as they play more games against each other. But Avalanche and Blues is as good as it gets in the Western Conference. Also that night, Edmonton versus Dallas. Very important game between two teams that, Edmonton's trying to maintain being a top three team in the Pacific Division. They've really haven't been as good recently. I think they want to get things back on track and start winning some more games. Dallas, on that playoff line, near that playoff line at this point. Definitely a team that needs points and is looking to win as many games as possible. So that's going to be an important game, I think, for the playoff picture out west between the Oilers and Stars. Moving on to Tuesday, December 17th, we have Buffalo versus Toronto. That's the NBCSN game that night. I will also be live streaming during that game. An important note that all the money raised during that live stream via Super Chat will be donated to Hockey Fights Cancer. Decided on that with the recent Oscar Lindblom news. So just a side note there about Buffalo versus Toronto. That's a huge divisional matchup. Buffalo's in second place in the Atlantic Division right now. Toronto currently on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. Huge divisional game for both of those teams. Buffalo wants to stay in a playoff spot. Toronto wants to take their playoff spot. That's a huge game. Also, later that night, we have Arizona versus the San Jose Sharks and another big, important Pacific Division game there. Arizona right there with Edmonton near the top of the Pacific Division, looking to secure themselves as a legitimate playoff team this year. San Jose, we know their struggles, just fired Peter DeBoer. They're having issues this season. If they're going to turn it around and get back into being a playoff team, San Jose's got to start very, very soon, and this is a big game for them against a divisional opponent. Wednesday, the 18th, Colorado at Chicago. That's also an NBCSN game. That's a Wednesday night hockey game. That should be a pretty good Central Division matchup. Colorado, obviously, a very fun team to watch, a team that I watch as much as I possibly can. In a divisional matchup, now Chicago, we know, isn't all that great this year. They're outside of the playoffs currently, probably going to finish outside of the playoffs. But still, divisional matchup, big game for the Blackhawks if they can somehow get a win in this game, and it should be a lot of fun to watch. So definitely excited for that one. And also that night, Edmonton at St. Louis. Again, for the Oilers, they need to get back on track and start winning some games here. St. Louis looking to maintain that first place spot in the Central Division. Colorado is right behind them and pushing hard to take that away. So big game for St. Louis as well. So that's going to be a good one between Western Conference teams there. Thursday, the 19th, we've got a lot of games that night. I've got 4 that night as counting as games of the week. There's a ton of games throughout the league that night. But New York Islanders versus the Boston Bruins, I also plan on streaming during that game. That should be a good one between 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And when those teams meet up, it's usually a pretty good game. Buffalo versus Philadelphia, big game there for Buffalo. They're a team that wants to continue winning, and they're going to have to beat good teams if they're going to stay in a playoff spot, and Philly is a great opportunity for them. For the Flyers, they're in a wild card spot right now, but do look like a playoff team. They're having a pretty good year. They're at home. They've been playing very well on home ice. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch between the Sabres and the Flyers. We have Chicago at Winnipeg later that night. Obviously, those are 2 teams that are looking to be playoff teams in the Western Conference. Winnipeg currently in a playoff spot, looking to maintain that. Chicago looking to move up the standings a little bit. Divisional matchup should be a fun game there. And lastly, we have Vegas and Vancouver meeting for the second time this week. And everything I said about their first meeting applies to the second one. This is a huge game for both of them. They are right near that playoff line. They need points, and this is a big divisional matchup with important wins on the line. Friday the 20th, there's only a few games that night in the NHL, and none of them jump out to me, so we'll jump ahead to Saturday, December 21st. We have Winnipeg at Minnesota, 2 teams fighting for their playoff position in the Central Division. Divisional matchup. These teams met in the playoffs a couple years ago. Minnesota got off to the really bad start this year, but now they've pulled themselves into playoff contention. So this all of a sudden becomes a really big game for them. Winnipeg, these Central Division teams, there's a lot of teams fighting for a few playoff spots here. So, Winnipeg's looking to maintain their playoff position, and a big win against a division rival on the road would certainly help do that for the Winnipeg Jets. That night, we have Tampa Bay versus the Washington Capitals. That is always a great matchup when these 2 teams play. Obviously, Washington's been the best team in the league this year. Tampa Bay is starting to show signs of turning things around and improvement, and starting to have a chance here to climb the standings in the Eastern Conference. But every time these 2 teams play, it is exciting hockey. There's a lot of bad blood between these teams, and have been for the last few years, going all the way back to their Eastern Conference final matchup back when Washington won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Just a grade A matchup and a whole lot of fun to watch. And then finally, we have Chicago at Colorado that night. Divisional matchup, again, the second time that these 2 teams will play this week in a home and home. Chicago needs points if they're going to make a run at a playoff position this season. Colorado obviously going for that first place spot. So this is a big game for both of them, and a divisional matchup that should be a lot of fun to watch. So quite a few games this week. This is a good week for the NHL. A lot of really fun matchups, and I can't wait to watch as many of them as I can. Hopefully you guys get the chance to watch some of these, and it should be a fun week of hockey. So with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.